Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about my favorite games of 2023. Yes, it would have been more suited to do it in December, but life got lifey. I picked up a lot of shifts at work, and that is the end of that story. Better late than never. So, most of these games that I'm going to talk about are more honorable mention ones. They're not like my top 5, top, 10, whatever. I'm not doing a top 10. I'll maybe have a top 5, but there won't be really in any order. Um, And that's because most of these games that I'm going to list as honorable mentions are going to be ones that either I just haven't had a chance to really play them in depth to really get a good feel of them and be like, oh yeah, I love this game. Or they're ones that are, ports or remasters of existing games that I already loved instead of like new releases. Or they're games that are like, I do love them, but they're still in early access. They're not officially released yet. So let's get started with the list. And my first honorable mention is actually going to be one that I have played a lot of, and it did get its full release this year. That's going to be Fae Farm. I like it, but I don't love it. And that's why it's an honorable mention. It's very similar to Harvestella from last year, or from 2022, in that there's a lot of things to like about it, but there's some things that it's just like, it's lacking that one, that one or two things. Everybody who's talked about this game has talked about how, despite being a farming sim game, it doesn't have the really detailed, intricate villagers or the really in-depth seasonal events, festivals and so on. And so it kind of gets held back a little bit by that. There's times it feels more like it's trying to be an RPG with the big overarching story of trying to fix the island's magic and so on. But it does a lot of things that are interesting as well. Like, you only buy a couple different types of seeds, but now you get like this magical powder that you can put on them to transform them based on what kind of season it is, or plant them in certain different types of soil and make them become fairy plants, those kind of things. So there's a lot going on with it that's interesting, but it just wasn't amazing. And eventually, I played a ton of it, but eventually it was like, okay, I just want to play something else. Um, that said, a game that wasn't like that I do love, but it was a remaster, is Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. If I remember right, this came out in November. Um, I think November was real. No. November was some other stuff. September, I think. There was one month. It was either September or October that was just really, really good for farming sims. I mean, this whole year was really good for them, and this is a great one. It's one of my favorite Story of Seasons titles, just because of the whole take on it, that it's being about your kid more than you. Like, it's about raising your kid and getting them a life and friends and all of that, and it ends, you die. And so I love the whole premise of that. You don't see that kind of thing in a lot of games. Um, and for that, it's one of my top honorable mentions, even though it's not a new game. Likewise, Borderlands 3 for the Switch. I bought it on PC when it first came out. I love the Borderlands series. It's one of my favorite shooters, in large part because of all the RPG elements and just the humor and so on. I had a friend that got me into it. I loved playing it with him. We don't play anymore together, but you know, I love it, and the fact that I can play this on my Switch. It doesn't have the same graphic fidelity as my PC version, but you know what? I can take this to work. I can't bring my laptop along with me and play video games there at work, but I can bring my Switch, if like right now I'm on the night shifts. It's dead quiet at night. I can play video games on my Switch, and so I do. Another honorable mention, and just another game I absolutely love, Metroid Prime, the remaster for Switch. The original Metroid Prime was, I think, the first Metroid I ever beat. I love the Metroid series. Um, I love Metroidvanias. I've been playing a lot of those lately. But like I said, this is I think the first one I beat even before Super. Yeah, I played the original on NES back in the day as well, and I always got to a point that was like near the end. And I'm like, oh, I gotta get everything. I gotta find all of the collectibles and this, that, and the other. Or with like as a kid on the NES, it's like I just didn't know what to do, where to go because there was no maps. And Metroid Prime was just beautiful. It was a great way. At the time we were like, there's no way you can get that feeling of Metroid and do it in a shooter, and yet they did it beautifully with that same sense of isolation, being alone on a hostile planet. They did some wonderful things with it. Another one that I want to talk about that's on this list as not a new title. It is a new title, but it's still in early access. Is going to be Traveler's Rest. This is a fun little game. I've played this a lot. You know, even while like doing game night with some friends, just we're doing role playing games, and I'm like, I can't do a lot to contribute at this point. My character's not fit for this kind of thing. I'll pull this up and I'll play it. And you start with just a tiny little tavern, and you build your way up, and you can expand it. It's got a fun loop to it. I look forward to seeing what this game does as it continues to expand. They keep getting updates to it as you eventually get, the full release. I really look forward to it. And yeah, it's a fun game. I loved it. Moving on to other games that I love, but for different reasons, but they're still honorable mentions. Oh, still, we got one more. Rune Factory 3 Special. I love Rune Factory 3 Special. This is one of those ones that's... I wish they had done more with the ports, the quality of life improvements. It's pretty faithful port of the original game. They did take out some of the multiplayer features to create if you got the special edition room like I did, you'd be like, oh yeah, you can put everyone in their swimsuits. Okay, whatever. But Rune Factory, I've said it several times, is one of my favorite series. 3 is probably the second favorite after 4 for most of the fans. It's just got a great cast, and it's just such a wonderful game. But again, it's a port. So, moving on to the ones that I haven't played enough of to get that good, like, yeah, I love them kind of things. Octopath Traveler 2. Played the first one, loved it. Absolutely enjoyed it. I haven't gotten as much with this one, again, just because, life got all lifey around the time that it came out. Was just so busy with work. And I hadn't finished Octopath 1 at the time either. There's definitely things to be said for, oh, hey, I haven't done that. But it's a fun game. Another one that came out this year that I haven't played a lot of, but I enjoy, Roots of Pacha. It's such an interesting take on the farm sim. Your prehistoric times, you're discovering agriculture, you're taming wild animals. There's just so much here that's like possibility, and I just haven't played it enough. Really nothing more I can say. I mean, the footage shows it all here. This is the trailer for the Switch. I was kind of hesitant with it because all the advertising was about the co-op early on. But yeah, you can play it on your own. You don't need to co-op it. And so, yeah, great. I'm glad. Moving on, we got another one that is from another series that I love, but I just haven't played enough of it. Persona 5 Tactica. It's very similar to XCOM in a way. Like, I haven't done much with the XCOMs, but I've heard a lot of other games compared to it that it reminds me of, like the Shadowrun Returns trilogy, which I think we also got those on Switch this year, or was it last year? One of the two. Great trilogy. But I enjoy what I see. Like the flank them, flank the enemies and knock them out of cover, and then do that kind of stuff. There's some interesting stuff behind it that just I like, and I love another thing in the Personaverse. I know as fans, we often be like, okay, we're tired of, all the spin-offs to Persona, whatever, Persona 4, Persona 5, whatever. Let's get a new game. But sometimes the spin-offs are really fun too. Honestly, most of them are really fun. And the last one I really wanted to cover on the channel, and I just, at the time when I was playing it, when it came out, I was super focused on something else at the time. I think it was actually, what was it? Fire Emblem Three Houses. I was doing a Verdant Wind run, I think. And that's going to be Silent Hope. It's been a good year for Marvelous, and they're going to have another good year next year, based on what we've seen. I mean, between Rune Factory and this, and A Wonderful Life, Marvelous has had a good year. And I like Silent Hope. I do enjoy it. For those who haven't played it, it's similar in a lot of ways to something like Diablo, in that you've got like these randomly generated dungeons that you go into, and you got your character and you're picking things up. It's a looter kind of thing. But then you bring them back to your base camp, and you can use them to, raise animals, plant crops, that kind of stuff. And it's fun. And I just haven't played enough of it. Like, honestly, I'm still in the first section. Like, I got decently down in the floors, but I'm still in the first section of the abyss. So don't want to go too in depth on that. You definitely need to play that more. But now we're getting into my top 5. The 5 games that in no particular order, are like my favorite games of 2020. 2023. Let's say 2024. First one, Atelier Ryza 3. I love the Atelier series. The only one that's been English released that I don't have is the one of the DS trilogy. That was like, we got the second one in the trilogy. That and the mobile game that came out earlier this year that just seems like a gotcha that I'm not interested in. But I love the Ryza series. It definitely has some fun, interesting mechanics with the crafting system. Each game does it slightly differently. I think 2 was my favorite, where you could start at the base material and work all your way up and just get the ultimate items. 3 does some things different that I like, but they're not as good for the crafting. The battle mechanics are a little different from the main Atelier series, with it being ATB kind of style instead of a turn-based, a more traditional turn-based. And honestly, the Rises are the first time that we've had a repeat protagonist. Usually, the protagonist of a previous game in the miniseries shows up in some way, often as the mentor of the character you're playing this time, which is really prevalent in the Arlen trilogy. Rorona was Totori's mentor, Totori is Meru's, and so on. But I love it. It's one of my favorite series, and it's a nice, fun, casual, relaxing game. Sometimes you just want something cute and cozy, and it fits. Now, another game that I loved from this year, and it's the one I've been playing a lot lately, is gonna be, if you've heard the background music, you might recognize it, Master Detective Archives Ring Code. I love the Danganronpa series, flaws and all. And this is made by a lot of the same members of the same team, and you can even see elements of that, like some of the art style, some of the direction, a lot of the mini games. They call, what was Climax Inference, or the closing argument in Danganronpa, is the deduction denouement. In this one, you've got variations of Hangman's Gambit and Logic Dive and all the other kind of mini games that were there in the Trials of Danganronpa, minus the debates portion. But you can see it's just a really colorful cast of characters, a lot going on. You're solving mysteries. I'm about halfway through it, a little over. And yeah, I'm loving it. It is. If you love Danganronpa, you'll probably love this too. It's just such a great game. And I have to do it in a trailer here because it's a Switch exclusive, and I'm not pulling up my Switch just to try and do stuff. So the trailers works beautifully. And some of the cases are beautiful. I love a good murder mystery. But moving on from that, let's talk another couple games. There's one that everyone is anticipating. You all expect to see it on. It's on everybody's list. Let's just get it out of the way. Tears of the Kingdom. At first, I didn't like it as much. I preferred Breath of the Wild, and there are definitely things Breath of the Wild did that I preferred. Like, I wish that they hadn't gotten rid of the runes of like the slate. I know why they did it. I understand because of the arm powers, but like having access to the bomb runes, for example, instead of having to go hunt for bomb flowers, is something I preferred a little bit more with Breath of the Wild. But that said, there's so much this game does well that I love. All of the arm powers are fun and interesting, and I am not the best at the you know the ultra hand one where you stick everything together and make these contraptions. Everyone has these amazing like flying machines and death machines and so on that they use, and just like, okay, nice. I'm not as good at as that as some people, but I do love it. I love the fusing. I love to be able to the ability to go up through floors and ceilings, and just how that changes a lot of the puzzle solving. So it's got a lot going on that is really beautifully done. That said, we got two last games on this list. One is one we have played on this channel, and I haven't done streams of it, but I should. But I have done guides on it, and it's one that I really need to play more. It's got its official release this year. You know it if you know what I'm talking about. But without further ado, let's switch on over to Sandrock. My time at Sandrock. I love Portia. We've done so much with Portia. I've done the Portia stream, and Sandrock is more of that, but I would say in most ways improved. There's some things that you can be like, okay, this is more personal detail. Like, I know one of the people who follows me on the streams when I do stream has said she prefers uh, one of the festivals, the way they do it in Portia, than how she's seen it done in Sandrock. But there's a lot of improvements to combat. They've really expanded the ranged weapons and how they work. You got all the new things. You have a rival who's not like just a complete and utter tool. You know, someone who's like, oh no, they're the friendly rival, and they show that, yeah, you just like Pokemon sometimes does it, where a friendly rival can be one that you want to, can push you in ways that, it doesn't always have to be the antagonistic rival. And it's done so well. Last but not least, let's go Coral Island. What can I say about Coral Island? This game, a lot of farm sims are going to get compared fairly or unfairly to Stardew Valley, but this one honestly probably deserves the fair. I would say it's a really fair one. It wears its inspiration on its sleeves. Oh, that blurred a little bit there. Didn't get to see the full thing, but and it's not in a bad way. It shows its inspiration from Stardew Valley. It shows its inspiration from the old Story of Seasons titles with like the Harvest Goddess. It shows its inspiration from all kinds of things, but it still has its own personal identity. I mean, I don't think it was inspired by No Place Like Home, but you mean there's the cleaning up elements, and it's got a lot of things in common with that. You've got such a diverse cast of characters. Like I was complaining about earlier about Fae Farm, doesn't have that really great diverse cast of characters. They're just like, they're kind of there. No, these guys have gone well in depth on the characters, on, everything's got its feel. You got very diverse cast. One of the biggest complaints that people had for Stardew Valley, for example, was just most characters are just, thin, attractive, white. You got a couple ethnic minorities, but like George is the only disabled character. You can't date the mother of, there's like the one, the MILFs, the mothers that you want to date. Same thing with Rude Factory 5 with Misasagi. you've got characters here that have all these things. You've got a dateable character who's a mom. You've got, you know, characters that are bigger and heavier. You've got characters of all ethnicities, you know, characters with tattoos, you know, all kinds of diversity with this. And it is such a fun game, and they're still building on it. They only released the 1.0 final release early in like no, I think it was September when we had all of the big, you know, farm sims, or maybe it was October, one of the two. But you know, they've still got more updates. They've got the spring, summer, fall, and winter updates, not adding in the seasons, but like that's what they're calling them, where they're going to do things like expand under the ocean with like mermaids and so on, and do more with all kinds of aspects of it. And I really look forward to seeing what this game is going to be like when it's finished. I mean, just kind of a demonstration for you guys here. You can see like from here all the way up to here are clips that I was doing, trying to put together a review for the game. It is such a fun game. I want to do more with it on the channel. It's definitely one that, you know, some channels like dedicate themselves to one game. It's one I could probably do as the one game. That said, yeah, those are my favorite games. A lot of honorable mentions. Like I said, it's been a good year, especially for ports and remasters. A lot of games that I just haven't gotten enough time to really play. Otherwise, it probably would have been like a top 10. And again, in no particular order. I don't have like, oh yeah, I love this, because what's my top game of the year is going to change from moment to moment. You know, right now, with me being hyper focused on Rain Code, that would probably be it. You know, if you'd asked me early on in the year, it would have been Ryza 3. And I still go back and I play it from time to time. You know, Tears of the Kingdom, you know, has been different places on my list. You know, give me another 6 months and give me, you know, more time to get around to playing Persona 5 Tactica and Octopath Traveler 2 and Silent Hope, and yeah, those might jump up too and be like, oh yeah, no, I love these games. And boom. Um, Same with Traveler's Rest once it gets a full release. But for now, those are my top games of 2023. I plan on doing another video here soon covering my most anticipated games of 2024. And I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one. See ya.